Hello there, one and all, and welcome to Slapendipity, Hobos of Happy Slappy Town. I am Eric, who you may call Eric, and with me is Gibby, who you may call Devon.
Hello, everyone. Hello. I hope you're doing well this fine November weekend.
Well, it's not the weekend anymore. Don't date this!
Well,
Now,
listen, Eric, I've been having lots of problems with dating things, okay? So if there's one thing I can date, it's this episode. Today is November 4th, 2024, but you'll be hearing it on November 6th. That's me dating this
no!
episode.
No!
Wow, isn't it crazy how the election is tomorrow?
No!
It's wild.
Stop
It's
it!
sunny right now. It's sunny
No!
outside. 3:20 p.m., mostly cloudy, 61 degrees.
No!
Man, I sure do love how Sony announced Agent Venom, a new movie coming out yesterday. That was yesterday.
Yeah.
So you like these episodes being evergreen. You don't like how we'll talk about current events or things like that, right? That's what you mean by dating an episode?
More or less. I mean, if it's something super relevant or like, we went to the Comic-Con or whatever. Sure, whatever.
No.
But also,
All right.
you can't just tell them it's bright and sunny and 60 degrees when it's obviously cloudy and 80.
Cloudy and 80 right above the bridge. Let me get you and everyone else here up to date about the dating situation from last week. Remember?
Oh
Do you guys
boy,
remember?
I do remember. I'm very, very excited to hear more about it.
Yes, so remember I matched with someone at the end of the speed dating, remember?
Yeah, you only circled on one person, and they circled on you, and that must mean it's truly fortuitous.
It is no, it's not really serendipity, but it is nice. Okay, so I felt, because I'm the man in this situation, that I must reach out to her, correct?
I mean, I told you that.
So therefore, I reached out to her. Now, it took me, uh, we went on Saturday, and I think on Monday is when I emailed her, right?
I think.
So it took me 2 days to do that. Not because I'm like, oh, I'm going to wait 3 days, but just because I'm like, I need to think of something to say. I need to hammer out my schedule. I need to like figure something out. Um, so she responded with like, yes, I'm interested in a date. And I'm like, cool. And then it took me a couple days to respond to that because I couldn't figure out what to do. Me and you talked back and forth. I talked with some other people, including women, and I came to the conclusion that I didn't want to go to dinner because women told me that like if it's a bad date and you're like stuck at a sit down diner, then like it could be uncomfortable because if someone wants to leave, then they'll feel obligated to stay because they have to wait for the food to get there or they have to wait for the bill to come, right? Like it's just a sucky situation. And so they said coffee better than dinner. Unlike something like a Tinder date, which you've been on, and by Tinder date I mean like any of Hinge or Bumble, whatever. That allows you to like talk to the person and you can like share interests, like let's go bowling or let's go to the zoo, let's go bouldering. Whereas this is literally like I've talked to you for 5 minutes 2 weeks ago. I don't know or remember anything about you, so we're gonna meet up and we're gonna start over. So I didn't want it to be anything like bowling or a movie, so it's gonna be coffee. So it took me a few days to send the email, took her a few days to answer, took me another few days to send the email, and I said like, hey, we should do something Sunday or Monday. And she responded and was basically like, we'll do something next Monday. So as in a week from the time me and you are recording this.
Mm-hmm.
I have not answered her yet.
Why not?
Because I am not quitting, I'm leaving my job. My last day at my job is on Thursday. And I don't know what I'm going to be doing immediately afterwards. Like I have to watch the dogs this weekend. I'm like my work's probably gonna throw me like a leaving dinner, so like that's gonna happen at some point. So like literally, it's just because I'm not working, I don't know what my schedule is, and so I cannot commit to doing something next Monday at noon.
I mean, it's only for like an hour or so.
It's an hour drive to get there, Eric.
Okay, that's
We're talking a
drive.
4 hour commitment here.
No, that's 3.
I don't know, half an hour to get ready, half an hour to decompress. Let's say the date's over an hour. It could be a lot. It's like a whole day thing next Monday. Who
I
knows what life will be like next Monday?
disagree.
We'll know in a week, but like, who knows for realsies, you know?
I think you're still just in your own head about it.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna finalize like my next week plans. I have a lot of people I have to talk to about like stuff that we're gonna be doing. Um, but yeah, it's it's taking a long time, and I also am just not super excited, if that makes sense. You know, like we keep talking about like it's the one person I circled yes on, and they circled yes on me. Oh my god! But like that doesn't mean that I'm, you know, it wasn't love at first sight. It wasn't the greatest thing ever. It's just like, oh, I like this person. Let's see what happens. So
Yeah,
that's my issues.
I think it does. I mean, sure, you can have your logistical aspects of like, what will the future look like, but I think it also just shows your like priority levels and, as you just said, excitement and stuff of like, if I had a date to plan, I'd be like, yeah, this and this and this and this and that and this and then, and I'd blow a bubble and an elephant would come out. But instead, you know, you prioritizing other things, which is fine. I think that it just is reflective of your current values.
Well, yeah, but like I wouldn't say that I'm putting other things ahead of dating. It's just I'm putting other things ahead of this date, if that makes sense. Although I am putting my dogs ahead of dating. My dog on top. Priorities. It's like food and water. It goes dog, and then it goes water, and then it goes food, and then it goes anything else.
Hmm.
So what did you do this week?
I've been sick most of the week.
How is that?
It sucks. I've usually when I get like a fever or the something or like the flu, I am very sick, sleep for a day, and then it's gone, and it's very convenient. But that's not what I have this time. I just have like all of the symptoms, like my jugulars feel swollen, my nose is congested, I coffee, I'm have headaches and stuff. But I haven't really had like a fever about it. So my body's just like, well, no, I guess it's fine. So I've just been for like a week feeling kind of lame, which I think is worse because it's like people are like, "Oh, you want to hang out and do a thing?" And I'm like, I don't feel awful, but I'm not super about it, and I couldn't get you infected.
Yeah.
It's a whole to do.
Yeah, I have been like conked out this whole week. I'm pretty sure that like you and our other friends got something from Comic Con, and then it's just been spreading around.
No,
But like
I
one day
got
I was,
nothing from Comic Con. Thank you
I
very much.
disagree. I
I
disagree.
was perfectly fine until I hung out with them the next time when they
Okay,
had
well,
already been sick.
I think that stuff like that usually takes 2 or 3 days. But anyway,
I don't
I
get
was
con fever.
also I was also out of it for a few days, like so sore, so just like lethargic, like couldn't get up, my whole body was aching.
Mm.
I never had a fever, but I was just like, wow, this is like a mild flu, which impacted my ability to get out a Halloween video on any of my channels, which was sad. But you know what it
No.
didn't impact?
Your ability to write an email?
My ability to release several videos on November 1st.
Wow.
Do you know why I did that?
To, to unveil a new thing?
November 1st is the anniversary of my channel.
Wow.
So it's been 6 years since I truly
Gosh.
started like doing YouTube content. November 1st, 2019 or 2018. 2018? I don't know. I'm bad at math. 2018.
Yeah, if it's 6 years.
Yeah, 2018 November 1st. And it started because my buddy came over. We were hanging out on Halloween because we had nothing else to do. And we were talking about Chris Chan. And then the next day I was like, I have more things I want to say. So I guess I'll just upload those thoughts to YouTube. And immediately just got like thousands of views, and then my channel like hit 1,000 subs in the next few days. And I'm like, oh, I can do this. And that's how my YouTube career started.
Wow.
That is magical. So before I was making FNAF content or this podcast or Chris Chan content or anything, I was making a series called The Absurds. Are you familiar with my series called The Absurds, Eric?
Slightly. It's too absurd for me, though.
You've seen a few episodes.
Absurd for me, though.
Oh.
Okay.
So it's about basically whatever topic I want to talk about, right? Like my channel name is Gibby, which is short for good idea, bad idea. And the conceit is that I can talk about events or people or concepts or stories, and then it falls into the label of either a good thing or a bad thing. And the topics I like talking about aren't like, oh my god, this is the greatest thing ever. It's like, hey, this is crazy, and it's good. Or, hey, this is crazy, and it's bad. It's like one of my favorite videos is about an underwater hamster city. And one of my favorite videos is about the Gävle goat, which is a giant straw goat that they build in Gävle, Sweden, which continues to be destroyed. There's like a curse on the goat, and it'll burn down every year. So like those are the kinds of videos that I enjoy making. And it was in making a video about the Absurds, it was in that series, that I made a video about Chris Chan. And so Chris Chan and then Sonichu are episodes of The Absurds. And then those became so popular that it spun off into its entire whole channel. My Five Nights at Freddy's video is an episode of The Absurds. When you start my almost 9-hour video, there's the Absurds logo, because that's all it was ever meant to be. And then that became so popular that it overshadowed the other Absurds videos. I tried uploading other Absurds videos on that channel, and people were like, I'm not watching that. That's not FNAF. I subscribed for FNAF. And I'm like, okay, so I guess this is a FNAF channel. So now I have a Chris Chan channel and a FNAF channel, but I'm like, I want to make the Absurds. And so I have my quote-unquote main channel, which is the Absurds. That's where the hamster cities and the burning goats go. And then the FNAF channel and the Chris Chan channel. So I relaunched my main channel, remastering like almost 10 old episodes of the Absurds. So I had multiple of those launch on November 1st, and I'm going to be trickling those out over the next couple months. And now that I'm doing YouTube full time, I'm going to be able to do Absurds and Chris Chan and FNAF and just make videos all the time, working 40 to 50 hours a week on YouTube, getting all that done. I got my merch store up finally. I have my Patreon correct. It used to be like, join my Patreon to go to my Discord. I don't have a Discord anymore, so now it's just go to my Patreon to give me money. And I have an eBay store where I resell Legos, and we have this podcast where we talk about things. So it's like everything's coming together, and it was all relaunched. The launch went on November 1st, and I'm happy about it. And the one thing I'll say that I will always feel blessed about is that typically when I upload videos, the comments and the feedback I get are really, really kind. And that's just not something that I'm used to, not something I expect, not something I see on other YouTube channels. And it's just really cool to see people leaving comments that are like, hey, you're like a really wholesome YouTuber. Or I have one video that's about the Thomas the Tank Engine community on YouTube, where people will do 3D animations, or they'll make little Thomas the Tank Engine fan videos, but they use like the toys, like the little train models. Like I'm sure you had those, Eric, right? So they use those to like make Thomas videos, and they can either be like, this is like a real episode of the show, and it's what an episode of the show would be like, or it can be like, more adult, or it can be like more, wild and crazy. And it's kind of like stop motion, but obviously it's not stop motion because like the trains are moving. But like they're able to make videos that are about the same quality of the show because the show makes the show using model trains. And so now these people are using the same model trains. And I just think that's a really cool little niche of people who are so devoted to this franchise and to the craft of doing this kind of video that they're able to make stuff that's really, really impressive and it looks like the real thing because they're using the same material that the people making the real show make. And so I made like a 12-minute video on that, and all these people from that niche community are leaving comments like, oh my god, it's so cool to see us getting a spotlight in something like this, and oh my god, you treated us with like, like kindness, like you're not just calling us like, you know, autistic train people. You're like, you know, you seem really interested in this. I'm like, yeah, like I love niche communities like that, and I'm really impressed by the quality that these people are able to put out. And so I love the fact that I was able to put a spotlight on them. And that just makes me feel really like proud of the work that I did. It is beautiful, but you know what's not beautiful?
What?
The Clifford video, Eric.
The Clifford video? No one knows
The
what you're
Clifford
talking
video.
about.
Yeah,
There's no
okay,
Clifford video.
The Clifford video haunts my dreams. Okay, so I call it the Clifford video. It's not about Clifford. It's not about Clifford the way that, like, the Thomas video is about Thomas. It is a video that contains Clifford. If you watch my channel, you know that I have this giant cardboard cutout of Clifford the Big Red Dog from the live-action movie that came out a couple years ago. I took it home from the movie theater, and it's been in the background on my set for a while. And so I'm making a video about collections and collectibles. And I came up with the idea for this video in December of 2021. And I am almost done with it.
Gosh, was it really that long ago?
I started writing it in December of 2021. I think I had you record your lines in like May of 2022.
Jeez.
Yeah. So I call it the Clifford video because Eric voices Clifford, the big red dog's cardboard head.
Spoilers.
A little behind the scenes info. Eric does a Brooklyn accent and he is Clifford.
Bruh.
What?
Spoilers.
It's not spoilers. Do your Clifford voice.
No.
Say hey everyone, it's Clifford.
No, you can't make me.
Okay.
I'm not your puppet for you to dance.
You're my cardboard puppet. I don't know. They'll hear it in the video. But the whole thing was we filmed it. Eric came over and helped me film it because some shots I needed like a person behind the camera. He voiced Clifford. I'm myself. It cuts between like different camera angles, and then obviously the camera I use to shoot my normal videos. There's some really important like blocking and staging, right? Like the point is that Clifford is really upset that he's not in the background of my videos anymore. So he's like, hey, one last time, I want to be in the background. And I'm like, okay. And so like I have to set him up in the background and then shoot the rest of the video. And again, the rest of the video is about collectibles and collections and the history of collections and stuff like that. One of the things that was taking me a long time to make the video with is that I wanted to talk to this one specific guy I know about his penny collection. And it just took me a long time to reach out to him and to get that all settled. So finally, I talked to him, we recorded that conversation. It's going to be a big part of the video. Oh my god, we're so ready. I go, and I had previously edited most of the video and basically just left this little gap to insert this interview. And I go, and apparently, because I hadn't rendered the video, I just had a saved Vegas project. Vegas is my video editing software. The original videos and audio that I had shot and recorded were no longer on my hard drive.
No.
And so when the project opened, it's like, okay, I can see that you cut a piece of video at 5 seconds and let it run for 5 seconds, and then you overlaid audio over it, but I can't find the video or the audio. So all the work you did is just gone. Woof.
Big woof.
So what I do have is Eric's lines, so Eric being Clifford, and I had to like go and dig into my computer's backup and find the video that we shot. So I have all the live action footage, which is good because it would be literally impossible for me to recreate it now because some of the props in the video no longer exist. So I have Eric's audio, so I'm not going to force him to re-record it, and I have the important video. But I need to do all of the voiceover again. I need to go and I need to edit in like all the background stuff. And I need to just re-edit the entire video. And so this whole thing has been a nightmare because I have to redo this huge portion of a video I wasn't planning on having to redo. But more annoying is simply the fact that I have to try to piece together these shots in the way that I intended when I shot them 2.5 years ago that I no longer remember. So, like, there's a shot of Clifford, and he's like, yo, it's me, it's Clifford, the big red dog's head. And then there's a shot of me turning towards him from one angle, and then a shot of me turning towards him from another angle, and I go, Clifford, is that you? And all I have is the raw video files of me doing these actions, and I don't remember the context of when they're supposed to be where they are. Basically, like, without it just being in the back of my mind how I'm supposed to put these scenes together, I don't remember how I'm supposed to put the scenes together.
It's like you have a puzzle and the pictures of the puzzle, but the picture isn't on the puzzle pieces.
Yeah, I have a blank white puzzle that has to fit together, and I'm like, I think this is everything. Let's just start.
Oof.
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah, there you go.
The Not the biggest issue, but like one of the no, it's not an issue at all. In fact, it's actually like the good thing is watching it from like, and I don't remember most of it. Like I don't remember doing most of this stuff. But like watching myself direct you and how to do your lines, and then watching the amount of takes that I do when we're recording my scenes, I'm like, wow, if I was doing this today, this is exactly how I would do this. Like, I'm impressed by my past self in being competent and confident in my ability to act out these scenes and to direct these scenes. Like, I wanted you to say a line. I wanted you in the Clifford voice to say, "That's rough." But I wanted it to be a pun on, like, the word rough, like a dog going, "rough." And so I wanted you to say, "That's rough." But you have to say it perfectly so that the person understands that you're saying the word rough, but that you're also saying it like a dog. And so it can't be too like rough, but it also can't be too much like rough. And so you have to say it absolutely perfectly. And so we did multiple takes of this, and we tried it from different angles where I'm like, say it, just say that's rough. Or, hey, tell a story. Tell me a story in the full Clifford voice. And end it with being like, that's rough. Be like, yo, I can't believe your mom was crossing the street and then she dropped her casserole. That's rough. Obviously, you know this because you do like voice acting stuff, and I know this because I've had to do it before. But one of the best ways to get into character, especially when you're doing like a specific voice or an accent, is to have a starting quote. Like you always say something in a voice that you're trying to mimic, and so every time you try to get into character, you try to like say that one line. Are you in agreement with this?
I am in agreement with this. I have some for some voices.
Yeah, like whenever if you watch a lot of YouTube and you hear voice actors talk about it, they do the same stuff. So like one of the voices that I do a lot in my FNAF videos is I have to do Michael Afton, who's the main character of Five Nights at Freddy's, and he has a very gravelly British voice. And there's one line from the series where he says, "Father, it's me, Michael." And so whenever I have to do that voice, I always start by saying, "Father, it's me, Michael," in the voice, and that like gets me into the range, it gets me into the tone and the graveliness and the British accent. So like I always start by going, "Father, it's me, Michael. I did it. I found it. It was right where you said it would be." That was not very good, but like I would usually say that like 4 or 5 times until I get it well enough to then go off and say new words that I've never said in that voice before. Yeah, like if you're watching me, I literally will just be like, "Father, it's me, Michael. Father, it's me. Father, it's me, Michael." Like I like literally just sit there like a mad person saying the same words over and over and over. And so again, this is from like 2.5 years ago, me directing you to be like, "Okay, Eric, get into your Clifford voice," and you like having your Clifford words is like really, I don't know, I thought it was really cool. I was impressed by us.
I'm glad you were, because I don't really remember any of it anymore.
Yeah, and neither do I. I'm like, I had no memory of this. I'm just listening to it, and I'm like, wow, Brooklyn Clifford Eric, great voice, great performance. Recently, one of my employees at the theater, is like a film major and like likes making movies. And so a bunch of us got together and we're like, "Hey, you should make a movie that takes place at the theater and like use the staff here as the actors." And so we like crowdfunded him money for him to be able to go out and do this. And I was one of the actors in the movie, like playing like the manager, like playing myself. And whenever I am doing any acting, I like to do between 4 and 5 takes minimum. Because I think the first one you can just throw out. So then the second one is like your first real one. The third one should be doing that real one again, try to get it more correct. The fourth one should be a silly one, but like not like you're being goofy, but like you change the order of the sentence, or you just say it in a totally different way, or you do a totally different facial expression, right? Like you just play with it, you do it totally different. And then the fifth one is like a synthesis of all these things. Maybe the experiment, the fourth one, which was experimental, was really good. And so you're like, oh, okay, I'll do it that way again, but better. Or maybe it was really bad, so you go back and you do the third one again. And typically I found that, like, the third one is typically the one that's the best. But it's up to the director to be like, let's, the fourth one, the weird one you did was really good. Let's do that a couple more times. And so, like, again, watching this Clifford video, if I have a single line, and the single line is like, well, I don't know about that, Clifford. I do that 5 times, and so I have 5 different shots of me doing that. Like, well, I don't know about that, Clifford. 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 Right? So you just do it multiple different ways. And when I had to act in this other person's video where I wasn't directing it, I was just acting in it, he was very much a one-take person, and that made me very uncomfortable. Because I was like, but I didn't get to do anything. I was basically just reading lines. Like, I don't feel like I did well. And he kept saying, like, no, you did fine. I'm like, I don't know. So I saw 2 or 3 rough drafts of the video before he got to the final version. I say video, it's a short film. And he nailed it. Like, I criticized my own performance, specifically some of my delivery. But, like, he got it. He got it in the first shot. Like, it looks good. Obviously, he had a vision in his mind, and my involvement was good enough. And so I'm like, oh, I really do need to, like, trust the director, because he's also editing it. So I'm like, I do need to trust him. He said it was good, and I guess it was, and it ended up being good, so okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So often when, because we as friends have been making videos for a while, and you almost always were the director-esque role. So now you got to be in the acteur role of just like, I don't know. Like, I guess it's not up to me. I'll give my input and suggestion, but like...
Like, I have ways of doing things. And the reason that I end up directing a lot of this stuff is either because I was the one who wrote it, because I'm always the writer person, or now because I'm, like, the person who knows how to do video editing. And so, like, if I'm writing and editing it, then it just makes sense for me to, like, give direction to the acting and the camera work and things like that. But, when I'm not the writer and I'm not the person editing it and I just need to put faith in the director... And I'm like, ooh, but I would do it this way, and I would do this. And he's just like, no, we're doing it this way. And I'm like, okay. And then it turned out great. And I'm like, oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, like, I think me and you talked about this off the podcast for the last week or so. But it's like, we should take acting classes. We should learn how to act.
Yeah, that was brought up one time.
It was brought up one time. And now you're committing to it live on audio.
That's not what I said.
Yes, it is.
We don't even know where we'd go for it.
We'll figure it out.
Besides, I don't know what my schedule will look like in a week.
That's true. I don't know what my schedule will look like in a week, yeah. But no, it's definitely something I'd like to do, because I want to feel more confident in being able to do silly stuff like that. One of the main things that I thought was so cool in, again, being involved from the sidelines in this video in this short film that one of my employees made, was that I think the best decision he made was cutting an entire scene. In writing or video editing or anything, if you're ever involved in creative works, there's a saying that people say, And the expression of the phrase is "kill your babies," which typically means that if you're writing a book or you're making a movie or writing a script or a painting or whatever, you get really invested into all the things that you spent a lot of time doing. But typically, your first and second and third and fourth and fifth drafts are going to suck. And you're going to have too many characters, too many plots, too much stuff going on. And so your beta readers are going to give you feedback, and they're going to be like, this was confusing, this was unnecessary, this can be shorter, this can be this, that, or the other thing. And writers have a feeling that it would make the work worse if they cut their favorite scene, or if they cut their favorite character, or if they combine two characters. Or they're like, I spent 3 hours on the prose of this paragraph. Like the word choices and the imagery I use and the metaphor in this section of the book are like my favorite. And then someone's like, okay, but if you just cut that entire chapter out, the book flows better. And the writer will be like, but no, it's the best part. How can it be better if I cut the best part?
Mm-hmm.
And so what the experienced writer will say is, kill your babies. It doesn't matter that it's the best part. It doesn't matter that that's your favorite character. It doesn't matter that you think that chapter is really cool. The work will be better and tighter and flow better and have, an overall better experience if sometimes you have to kill your babies.
It's a metaphor.
Yeah, it's a metaphor, but like it's so true. It is 100% true. In the book I wrote, again, there were chapters and characters that I loved and spent time developing, and I'm like, I love when this guy is on screen or on page, and I'm like, but if I cut him from the story entirely and cut all of his scenes and give the one important thing he does to someone else, it makes the story better, and that sucks. But it's what you have to do. And I firmly believe, this is one of my writing hot takes, I have lots of writing hot takes. One of my writing hot takes is that if you don't kill your babies, you are not a good writer. And typically that's one of the bigger steps between people who write fan fiction and people who write real published books, is that the people who write fan fiction are like, quote unquote, doing it for themselves. And so they're like, I'm going to put in this character because I love it when he's on page. And people who are writing published works are getting a lot more feedback from people who don't see their characters and their work as sacred. They're just trying to make it better. They're like, hey, your movie and your script and your book would be better without this. And so they listen to that feedback and they actually do it. And so, no hate against fan fiction writers, but typically if I'm reading fan fiction, I'm like, this person is too in love with their story and their characters, which is what's going to stop them from being a real serious writer.
Well, it's also just learning steps.
Yeah, there's obviously nothing wrong with using fan fiction to like learn how to write and like get feedback and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that once I think that's the biggest border between bad writer and good writer is being willing and able and knowing when to kill your babies. And so for the short film that my employee made, the first thing we filmed was, it's a horror movie, and so the first thing we filmed was one of the murder scenes. And so we have a character who goes upstairs in the movie theater, and they have to go fix a projector, because it's in the middle of a movie and it turned off, and they're up there, and then the camera, from the perspective of the killer, sneaks up on them, and then the person's, fiddling with the bulb, and then the killer grabs a drill that's right next to them, and then drills the person's skull, and they die and they scream. And we spent basically the entire first day of the shoot getting this done. And there was this whole thing where we had to find the drill. And then, oh no, it didn't have a battery. So, like, can we fake it and, like, not have the drill actually spinning and just put a sound effect in afterwards? Or do we need to find the battery? And we need to, like, get the lighting perfect because it was the first day and we weren't entirely sure how we were going to set up the lighting. And then, like, the actor playing the victim, is obviously someone who we wanted to include in the movie. And, like, it's important that they have a role. And we did multiple takes of her screaming. And it was really, difficult, or it took a lot of, like, talking and trying to figure out to get the camera angle of how to show the hand of the murderer reaching over to grab the victim without showing, like, the face of the murderer, right? Like, how do you stage that? And we had to set the camera up and, like, do that all correctly. And obviously there was a stunt involved where the person had to be leaning next to the projector, and then they had to be grabbed from behind and pulled onto the floor, and then have the screwdriver, shoved next to them. And so it's this whole thing where we had to, like, there were so many obstacles in our way of getting the shot. And then we did it, and we edited it. Or not we, obviously I didn't do that part, but like the team, the director, the writer, the guy making it, shot all that, got all the footage, edited it, put it together. And in his first draft of the movie, it was where it's supposed to be in the script, where, okay, now we cut to this person who dies. And it just didn't flow very well. And overall, it just made it sort of too unfocused from like where the narrative was going. Like, oh, now we cut to this person who we've never seen and we watch them die, but it's very impersonal. At this point in the story, we're kind of invested in the main character, the final girl's plight. And so to cut to someone else dying isn't very interesting. And it's sort of now just one in a series of deaths. And it's the least visually interesting because it's in the dark. And the segue from the previous scene to that scene didn't have like enough dialogue. So like, okay, we could make it a little better if we shot more dialogue, whatever. And so in the third draft of the movie, that entire scene was cut out, and the shot of the drill going to the head and the scream was used in a montage later of like scary imagery. And so by killing the baby, killing the first scene we shot, the first scene that took like probably most effort of like the entire shoot, which was, this really impressively well done thing. Cutting that scene made the movie better. And so when the director did that, I'm like, wow, that was a good decision. That was a good idea. I'm glad he did that. And that makes me even more impressed that he's capable of making, kill your baby decisions. And it's one of those things that like you're not aware of unless you're involved in making, again, it could be books, it could be video games, it could be scripts, it could be
whatever creative process.
Yeah, again, it like even works for paintings and stuff, right? Like you could draw the best eyeball ever, and then you're like, oh, but the painting would be better if their hair was covering their eye, so I guess I need to cover over the greatest eyeball ever. But I know everyone watching that, unless they were there that day, they don't even know that scene was cut because they don't know it was filmed. They don't know it was supposed to be there. And it just makes the movie, right? Like if you're just consuming a piece of art, then you're not aware of all the stuff that went into it and all the changes that happened. And so it just looks better. And so that's one of the reasons that I'm very sympathetic toward the plight of George Lucas, because the public only ever saw the final draft of the first Star Wars movie, and we love it, and it's amazing. But he had all these amazing visuals and shots in his head that were just physically not possible to pull off in 1977, especially with the budget he had and the issues of like shooting in a real desert that he was going through. And so he was always like, I hate that movie. I would have done so many things differently. It doesn't match my vision. And everyone else is like, dude, it's amazing. It's literally like, I personally think it's the greatest movie ever made. And George Lucas is just like, well, but like, I always wanted like the city they go to have these establishing shots of all these aliens and creatures running around and these, amazing vehicles that really sets the mood for like what kind of world this is. And we're like, well, yeah, but that had to be cut for whatever reasons. And so Lucas's desire to go back and to add in those things, I think, is a very natural instinct to have. And I think most people would kill for the ability to go in and to go back and to make their art look the way that they wanted it to. And so I'm very sympathetic to that mindset. And so I do not hate George Lucas for going back and changing the original Star Wars movies. I just kind of wish that they did it again so that the visuals don't look like CGI from the mid-90s. That's sort of my gripe with the Star Wars special editions, is that the CGI that they added, the movie was filmed in 1977 and then the CGI was added in 1995. And I'm like, well, I kind of wish that it was updated again.
I gotta say, I was not expecting the behind the scenes of the Clifford video to go into I sympathize with George Lucas.
Listen, I was editing this video about Clifford the Big Red Dog's head, and my first thought was Star Wars. You know what's okay. You know what's funny? You know what's really, really funny?
Tell me what's really, really funny.
So, because I'm just kind of piecing together these shots and I'm not entirely sure where they're supposed to go. I'm like, well, it would be really cool if, right after Clifford says this, if we get a shot from Clifford's perspective of me sitting at my computer talking to the camera, right? Like, it just kind of puts you in Clifford's head more. But we didn't shoot that shot, 3 years ago. But there is a shot from, because you're like, you like had to squeeze on the ground to like shoot from Clifford's perspective. Like squeeze, that. It's like duck under my window and squeeze next to my bookshelf. And so you just happened to be rolling the camera while I was setting up my tripod. And I'm like, I can clip 2 seconds out of this nonsense that like shouldn't have even been on video that we didn't mean to film, and have that be the cut to Clifford's perspective. And that's actually relates back to George Lucas, because George Lucas was working on, I think he was working on The Godfather, and Coppola wanted a shot of the empty hallway of a hospital outside one of the characters' hospital rooms. And he's like, I want there to be an empty shot of the hospital as an establishing shot, and then we go into the room. But he didn't have that shot because he didn't shoot it while they were filming. But in the editing bay, he's like, I want this shot. And so George Lucas was like, well, we started rolling the camera before we said action, and then had the nurses all walking down the hallway and had like all the stuff going on in the background. So what if we take the footage of us setting up the shot and have that be the establishing shot, but we just like crop some stuff out of the way? And so that was like George Lucas's biggest influence on The Godfather. And like I know that story and I love that story. And so as I'm editing together the Clifford video using the shot of me setting up the tripod, I'm like, wow, this is just like The Godfather.
Oh my goodness.
If any of you out there like making videos or editing or whatever, my advice is leave the camera rolling for as long as you possibly can. Get more coverage than you think you need. And try to capture the white noise of whatever environment you're filming in. Those are my 3 tips for making videos.
Yeah.
What are your tips for making movies, Eric? As the best actor I've ever worked with.
Thank you. I'm one of the only actors you've ever worked with.
Hey, there's been probably double digits at this point.
Dang. I would agree with that to an extent. I remember some videos that I made for certain projects. It was like, oh, we have to like make a commercial-esque thing for a farm, and we like did some interviews with some people, got some B-roll of the farm, and then we were like, and that's it. And then we went to like go edit it and stuff, and we were like, we don't have that much B-roll, actually. And, we could have gotten this shot, actually. And, And it was I was working with other people, and we were all like, we had to drive an hour or whatever to get to the place. We're on a time limit. So we just used what we had and stretched it out in creative ways. But it was very much like if we just had more, that would have been nice. That would have saved us some trouble.
Yeah.
What else? I don't know. Having fun with it is important. Or like,
how do you what would you say about acting in thing? Because you're typically not involved in the writing process when we do videos, and not for any particular reason. But when we made in high school, we made a video about bullying.
Yes.
And I think it ended up that because I wrote it and because me and you were in the same. Okay, long story short, some background is we in our high school health class had to make a short video about bullying, and we ended up making a 40-minute epic about the tragic tale of Eric being bullied and then dying. And we partnered up with our friend George, who we've mentioned on the show before, and some other of our classmates, but they had health in a different period. And so we did not have class at the same time as them. And so the reason that you ended up being like the main character is because me and you did have the class together and I was writing it. And so I was like, okay, well, because me and you have these times together, you have to be the main character. How much of that experience do you remember?
Some of it. I remember the spin-off more.
Oh my god. We ended up, I think we must have been assigned that on like a Wednesday, and it was due on like the next Tuesday or the next Wednesday. And so we ended up shooting every time we had health class, we would use that period to shoot it. And whenever we had our free period, like study hall, we use that to shoot it. And then like all weekend, like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I think we spent shooting it like at all my house, your house, Christian's house. We stayed after school for I think 2 days. And so in a week we put together this 40-minute video with like, I don't know, I think it turned out pretty good. Some of the audio wasn't great. But I think it turned out great. And the teacher like came up to me like after we turned it in and was like, do I have your permission to use this as an example in future classes I teach? Because like, I don't know how you turned in something like this in the week I gave you to do the project. And I'm like, sure, that's really nice. Yes. She's
I do remember that actually. Yeah. Wait, so what was your question?
My question was, from your perspective, how does it feel consistently being cast as the main character? Because, like, again, I've acted in things, but typically I'm involved in either the editing or the writing. And so for you, it's like, how does it feel to just have to have faith in the people who are behind the camera or the people who wrote the words?
I'm fine with it. I enjoy the like you got a script, just read it and like, you know, act it out to the best of your ability, but like, you know, it's all there for you and you can make your suggestions or whatever, but like I don't mind being a mouthpiece for other people's stuff. And I think mostly I don't know, I get into the role enough to make it my own, and so then I still feel like it's partially me also coming with it. And it's all a collaborative effort, and like part of the like I liked what you wrote, or you know, at least didn't disagree or hate it or anything. So like, you know, if I enjoy what you wrote, then like why that just makes it all the easier, you know.
So I haven't officially asked you this yet, but I know you're gonna say yes, so it doesn't matter. So so I've been planning and writing, and I'm currently in the process of making a video similar to my FNAF video, but about Ocarina of Time, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. And it's going to be like a long, deep dive into the game. It's my favorite game of all time, and it's going to be an episode of The Absurds. Okay. And I don't know when it's going to come out. Probably more than a year from now when it actually comes out.
Do you need me to do a Russian voice as an ocarina or something?
No. So as you may recall, when we were in high school, inspired by such amazing, you know, the at the time very popular YouTube genre of abridged series, like Dragon Ball Z Abridged by Team 4-Star, or Ocarina of Time Abridged by Adam West Lapdog, or Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged by Little Karibo, stuff like that. We made a Zelda Abridged series. Do you recall this?
I do.
Do you remember which character I had you voice?
I was Navi.
You were Navi. So I was thinking that for this Ocarina of Time video I'm making, because obviously the game has no voice acting, and so I'm going to have to get voice actors to read the necessary dialogue when I have to like point out like, oh, and then in this scene they say this. So I was going to have you be Navi.
Wow.
Because you've done it before.
Wow. That was a long time ago.
That was freshman year, because me and you had math class together. Um, so yeah, no, yeah, that was freshman year. That was 2010. That was 14 years ago.
Thanks, I hate it.
And you bought, I think you was it a blue snowball microphone or was it a Yeti microphone? Like
Nah,
you bought a microphone
I
so
did.
that we could record.
It
Or
was
you
a
got it for Christmas
snowball.
or something. Yeah, a snowball, which is
Snowball for life.
the same microphone. Yeah, that's the same one I currently use for my videos. But yeah, you got the microphone so that we could record it, and we'd like sit in your family's like computer room or your room to record the audio. And I would just hand in like pages of scripts and be like, okay, this is what's happening. Don't worry, I'll edit it all together. And I don't think that ever happened. We definitely had the audio for multiple episodes, and we had scripts for like the entire series, I think. And
Yeah.
then none of it ended up happening.
Yeah. Gosh.
Gosh.
Golly geez, even.
So yeah, do you want to be Navi?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know if I could
it
do that voice again. I don't even remember what I did.
it was very much like a high pitch,
Oh, yeah, I'm
squeaky
sure.
fairy voice.
I'm sure it was something like, "Hey, what's going on?"
It's me, the fairy. This is also how I'm justifying writing off our trip to Japan as a business expense, is because there's necessary footage I need to gather
Oh my goodness, don't
in
say that.
Japan. It's true. We're going to the Nintendo headquarters. We're going to multiple like Nintendo locations. We need footage of Tokyo and Kyoto, cherry blossoms. I'm going to be playing my Switch on like a Japanese train. Stuff like that needs to be intercut in the video. And so we necessarily need to go to Japan to film stuff for this video. Therefore, our tickets and our lodging are company expenses.
Definitely couldn't have gotten B-roll footage from any site online.
It's
We
not the
had to
same.
go.
We had to hop on a plane to Japan. But yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah. You should be. Yeah, yeah.
Well, this has been a very focused episode on
It has. It's been
acting and
surprisingly focused.
making art and movies and stuff. Do you have any I don't know. You took some you were in some plays when you were in college, right?
I was in some plays in college. I actually, because I didn't get to write much, as you said, and during college, I did get to write much.
Yes.
Not a ton actually, but more. um, which I don't know. It was like easy and hard because again, it was like a group thing, and no one else was really keyed in. So I was just like, I'll just do it all, I guess, and went to town. But I also enjoy like the improv-y stuff as well. Like, I remember for one class, my we had to do like a project about like getting familiarized with like the layout of the college and stuff and what we offer, and I don't know. It was weird. But so my partner wrote the entire thing and we had to give a presentation on it, and I was like, okay, you don't want to do public speaking because it scares you. I like to improv, so you write everything and I'll speak everything, and that'll just be it. She was like, okay, sounds good. So I didn't look at it and improved as the slides came up, and the professor was just like, Eric's partner, like, you haven't been talking much at all. Like, do you have anything you'd like to contribute? And she was like, yeah, this was a good thing, and the ba. And he was like, okay. And afterwards, he was like, overall, your presentation was very good. I'm going to give you, like, probably like a B plus or A minus or something. But Eric, I think you were more nervous than you realized. And I was like,
Oh,
yes, definitely nervous. Definitely not making it up on the fly.
oh no.
I wouldn't, you should have read the thing you do before you submit it. But it made for a fun challenge.
And what did you learn?
Where the school bathrooms were and where the theater was and the sport, like it was a class that was just to be like help ease you into college and like it's not so scary, and I was like, I'm paying money for this is stupid. But I also got to write like a Little Red Riding Hood play, stuff like that, performed in Dracula, all that good stuff.
Well, that's good.
I will say it does kind of suck how much the other people you're working with can determine your time. Of like, do you not get along with your fellow co-stars or staff or whatever you want to call them? You're not going to have a fun time necessarily.
Oh no.
Unless you can manage personalities and stuff, but, you know, if your director or whoever is like, I'm not going to do that. And you're like, what? But yeah. I lost the thread a little, but, you know.
No, there is no thread. It's just us talking. That's the point of this podcast.
No, I meant
Specifically,
my
this
thread.
episode. No.
There's no threads at all?
There's no threads at all in this episode of Slapendipity, Hobos of Happy Slappy Town.
Goodbye, everyone. Stock up on threads. They're gonna go out soon.
The threads are going out of style. Leave us an email at slapendipity@gmail.com if you want us to read it on the show. Have a good week. I know I won't.
Watch out for flus and flu-like symptoms. Take your medicine.
And remember, Clifford loves you. Goodbye.